Welcome to Sutures and Sense and our summer school subject matter expert series. That's a little hard to say. I'm Mark Copeland. I'm the value analysis whisperer. I help companies get their products approved. Ryan Pistone is our producer, director, and brains, and we talk business to clinical and clinical to business. Our guest today is Mr. Tim Ingram. Now, Tim is a subject matter expert for the Paradigm Venture Group, but Tim's background is interesting. He spent over 3 decades working in materials management, purchasing, supply chain, and value analysis for 6 different health systems spread out across the United States. And before that, Tim's had a long career in materials management in the United States Air Force. So we thanked Tim for his service, and we asked him a bunch of questions about new product approval. And Tim is, as you'll find, a great storyteller. And for instance, Tim will tell you, hey, adding USB ports to your hospital bed is not innovation. Or if you have something that's new to your product line and new to your company, but your competitors already have it, it's not new to us. It's just new to you. And finally, Tim warns, and I think this is one of the most important things he says, if you're not willing to put in the time and the effort and the preparation to prepare the financials for your health system customers, should you even be in this industry? Should you even be in this profession? Great stories and tough lessons from Tim Ingram of Paradigm Venture Group. We have with us today Tim Ingram of the Paradigm Venture Group. All right, Tim, let's start with an easy one. Should companies come in and present new innovative products to a health and hospital system? And it's sort of a loaded question. I was thinking, like, who's done it well you don't have to name the company, but when you look back and say, wow, they brought out something completely different.
Well, there's a lot of variables there on new technology, right? Adding USB ports to your bed doesn't make it new technology.
Right.
So,
No?
I give you an interesting story. The first time I saw one of those devices that highlighted your veins,
Yeah.
the people that worked in the lab, so they could make sticks a lot easier, those kind of thing. I thought that was really, really high tech stuff at the time. Now they're even better, of course, right?
Yeah.
But I used to sit on new technology boards and committees for GPOs. And there was a group of us. We'd walk around the showroom with all this new products, and we had little laptops or tablets, and we would grade and ask questions about why do you consider this new technology, or is it just a fresh coat of paint on an old product?
Yeah.
And they're passionate about what they think that technology is, and I think a lot of times that's the problem is if Stryker has it and Medtronic has it, and you bring it in and say, well, this is new technology. I'm saying, well, it's new technology to you,
Right.
but it's not new technology to the market.
Right. Right.
And so you have to be careful. You have to know your product lines. So if I was to sit down and talk to anybody that was going to introduce there and said, listen, there's a lot of considerations. If you're talking about something that's going to cost more and it's non-chargeable, you
Right.
can't bill anybody for it, but it's going to increase your room rates, which, all the payers only pay so much per day. And you're not aware of those numbers, but you're coming in and you're raising or, you're increasing that gap between what it costs and what we charge and what's reimbursed. Right? You got to remember those 3 things.
Yeah.
And they need to do their homework, because I've seen some vendors, you can go on their website, they'll give you the ICD-10 number, they'll give you the HCPCS number. They really are proactive to help you find, how do I charge for this device that you want us to buy from you? Now, those people I thought were a little bit more proactive and
Yeah.
understood the process, the purchasing, the P2P, right?
Yeah.
Here to pay, and how fast can we get that on the bill and get it to it? And we're not going to get pushback from private pay and CMS,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so I would say to anybody, before you start even bringing that stuff to the table, if you don't understand the billing, and the coding and the cost. And by the way, this is regional, right? You might get reimbursed $100,000 for this procedure in Arizona, but in New York it's 250,000
Right.
because
Right.
it's not done east to west coast. It's regional by CMS. So if you're
Yep.
not familiar with your market and what the reimbursements are and how it's charged and all those HCPCS, and you don't think it's important, someone like me is going to pick up on that pretty quick and say, hey, listen, thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. I'll get back to you, which is the killer code. I'm not going to call you back. And so, I want them to be prepared.
Yeah. Right.
Educate those reps. They're smart. They're educated. They want to learn. If you're just going to script them, I picked through that stuff so quickly. I said, "What
Yeah.
about this?" Well, I'll have to get back to my VP, and I said, "Well,
Yeah.
okay,
Have you
yeah,
have your
yeah.
have your
So you've been
VP come in next
scripted,
time?
and he
Yeah.
told you or she told you. If they ask you these questions, tell them that you'll get back to them on it. That's basically what it is. We're not going to get into pricing. Oh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of variables that go into pricing." And I said, "Listen, I can look it up on my product that I have from my GPO, and I can tell you right now what it's from the 10th to the 90th percentile for this product. And you're telling me you can't tell me at all based on our volumes because you already have the numbers. And if you don't, there's software out there that provides you a lot of financial data. And I'm surprised that some vendors don't use that. I would just say before you start coming in, introducing anything, if you don't have your act together in those areas and you don't think it's worth the investment, I think you're in the wrong profession."
Well, that's funny. I think you make a really good point that we hammer every day. And it's why, like I say, talk clinical to business people and talk business to clinical people. But they don't, I'll guarantee you, if they're approaching their clinical end users the same way, they're not getting any business. And so why would they come to you and or somebody who's on the supply chain side
Mm-hmm.
um, and think, well, I don't have to prepare for them the way I have to prepare for. That's something. It's not arrogance. It's actually ignorance in the industry, and that's what we're trying to help with some of it. Because if
Well,
I come into the supply chain,
you want to
go ahead.
outline all that stuff in your vendor management policy. When you put it out on the vendor management system, whatever you might
Yep,
have,
yep,
I try to make sure we outline how we handle, different product lines, service lines, that this is what we do on new technology. You got to show your FDA approval. You have to bring that in. We want to make sure before we even look at this that
right,
somebody has approved it, and we don't accept European approvals,
right, right.
right? And so, even though Europeans are usually ahead of us in the game on new technology on implants,
Yeah,
it doesn't
yeah,
change the rules.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
the way
Well,
it is.
if you walk in today without all of that stuff, like I don't. You probably, like, to your point, you should not be in this business. Um, so let's jump to the next part of this, because, and we talked a little bit about it. Like, how do you as a group in the value analysis and in your position, broad spectrum, how do you evaluate something that is like sort of like we talked earlier, doesn't have a category or sort of crosses disciplines or has no preconceived budget, and what we see nowadays, these are the perfect examples of things that are currently reusable that are moving to disposable. Or let's switch and say there are softwares that replace things that you used to do with pen, paper, text, right? Like, so you're not worried about landfills, actually maybe helping the landfill a little bit in that case. But like, you're looking at them differently going, this is a budget we didn't have for this $25,000 software or
Mhm.
and but we know it'll help us with these things. But how do you value those things?
You know, I don't think you can absolutely stonewall anything in a budget year, right?
Mm.
You've already budgeted for the year. Here we are in February. Somebody's bringing in an item that we don't even use, right? It's
Right.
something that's in addition
Right.
to, right? How do you get that into the budget? You know, the users, the end users, the doctors, the nurses, they have to do their homework. And usually what I do, and I think it's best practice, is I invite the vendor to our value analysis, our OR value analysis, our CAF, lab value analysis team. We'd have it broken up and have them present,
Hmm.
right? I say, listen, we don't make that call when it comes to what we're going to spend. What the C-suite wants to know, the steering committee wants to know, have you done your homework, all your due diligence? Have you answered all those questions on that new item submittal, right? Is it chargeable? What HCPCS codes are assigned to it? What ICD-10 is assigned to it? The whole 9 yards. You can even find out what the reimbursement is if it's a reimbursable product. So once that goes up in front of them, if they see there's an ROI attached to it,
Yeah.
and the surgeon, let's say, hey, he does 200 of these a year, we're going to get X amount of dollars back. It's a win-win for the vendor and for the hospital. They might consider it.
Okay.
Might,
Yeah, it's
right?
still like nothing's guaranteed, but that increases. It becomes more logical to the C-suite at that point, whether or
Right.
not they choose to do it. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So if you think about the standards of care, right? Those things are already established. If you're going to try to insert something that's going to change the standard or level of care in which a patient gets, that has to go through a lot of committee reviews and approve, the CMO, the CEO, CFO, TNOs, all the C's are talking about this seriously because now
Yeah.
policy have to be rewritten. They have to be approved by the policy committee, blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of administrative work that has to go through. And, it's, don't shoot the messenger, but say, listen, we're a business just like anybody else.
Right.
We have to CYA because if, let's say, you're a joint commission hospital and they all of a sudden look at your policies and procedure and say, yeah, you're not doing what you say you're doing on this policy, it might not be a type 1 write-up, but it's going to be a finding. You could look at, when you look at 300 to 400 lines a year for value analysis, because even if I find items that are less expensive, not cheap, but less expensive,
Yeah.
it functions the same as something we're spending a lot on. And I'd always like to use suture removal kits as my example. What do you really need to have in that? Because we're buying these ones with these really nice scissors in there and the tourniquet, 2x2s and all that kind of stuff, and we're paying fictitious number. Let's say we're paying $10 a piece. I said, hey, listen, I got this one over here from XYZ, medical company. It's only $3.
Mm.
You know how many of these things we go through in a year?
Yeah.
You know how many of these end up in nurses and techs' pockets that go home? They just forget to take them out, right? And so,
Leakage, we call it shrinkage, shrinkage.
but
Yeah, yeah.
so you don't want to impact the direct care because they'll say, well, suture removal, Tim, is a big deal. I said, yeah, but you use 10,000 of these things, and 10,000 times $5 or times $7, that's a lot of money.
Significant.
Could you see fit to?
If you could tell every single requesting physician, sales rep, device company behind them to do one thing to improve their new product requests, and I think I may know what your answer is, but I could be wrong. What would it be?
Sit on our side of the table when we negotiate the price.
Uh, uh,
The thing
it's
about it
not what I
is,
thought.
we
That's
would
interesting.
we would reveal to the physician, this is what your total cost of this case is. This is our total reimbursement. This is what's going to happen with that gap And I always tried to share with them the benchmark for percentage of the reimbursement that your items can have is 35%.
Yep.
If you go over that, and then so the healthcare organization will start losing money, more money.
Yeah. Right.
If you have a lot of CMS patients, you really want to be tight
Yeah.
with what the
Yeah.
total costs are.
Yeah.
And then when you do that markup, whatever the markup is, hey, if DRG 423 is only 150,000 and your total charge is 180,000, well, that 30,000 is going to move over to what? Uncompensated care,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I would hope that most finance people would like to stay within, hey, we're getting 100% of our billable charges, right? Billable charges. We're getting 100% of that. Now, there's all that other stuff that downstream costs, physical therapy, x-ray labs,
Right.
all those things, anesthesia, pharmacy. That's a different story. But when we're talking about billable charges, you really want to sit down with the physician and say, hey, listen, your percentage is 52%. But Dr. Copeland and Dr. Ingram are at 38% for the exact same
Yeah.
procedure and DRG. Well, how is that? Well, your custom pack costs $300 more. You're in the OR for an hour longer than them. So anesthesia costs go up, pharmaceutical costs, OR time, all this stuff starts, piling on. And so at the end of the day, we have to charge more for your particular procedures because you take longer and use more resources, right? Can't flip an OR room that's still being used. So, and that's certainly, there's reason. We discussed that. There's always reasons. Sometimes surgeons take longer because you got age groups, geographic,
Right.
demographics, the whole nine yards. How responsive is your reps and parts and pieces and SPD? When you can sit there and juggle, 100 balls at one time and not drop one, you're doing really good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and OR directors, and I tell you, bless their hearts, I don't like giving them a hard time, but they like giving me one. Is I understand how they have to juggle things daily. Those block times,
Yeah.
and surgeons not showing up on time, or they cancel a case at the last minute. All that money that's wasted in time and preparation goes out the window.
Yep.
So I would say to a physician, sit down with your value analysis, your CNO. Am I causing any issues? I had an internal medicine physician who broke scopes like nobody's business. Our scope repair went up 300% because he be torquing those babies, trying to
Mm.
get a better pick. I get what he's doing, but I'm walking down the hallway, and one day, he said, hey, how's it going, Tim? I said, well, if you stop breaking the scopes, your cases wouldn't be delayed. I'm not breaking scopes. Doc, you're breaking the scopes. You're the number one felon. You're breaking them all the time. What? Wait a minute. What are you talking about? And I brought him in my office because I did all the repairs and returns, right? And I showed him the scopes. Aren't those yours? Yeah. What's wrong with that one? It'd be the light source, or the sleeve is cracked,
Right.
or,
Right.
you did something to break it. And I said, we have to send these things out, and I have to pay for loaners, or the company will give us, Olympics usually give us loaners at no cost. But the repairs are ginormous, 300,000. He goes, Tim, nobody has ever told me I was
Yeah.
breaking scopes. So there you go.
Guess what you
Go
did
in
there,
there and
Tim?
ask him, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one chance. What am I doing wrong that might cost us time or money or resources that you guys are afraid to tell me about. I'm giving you one chance to tell me, and no
Well,
hard feelings, no harm, no foul. And I said, if they're brave enough to tell them, say, well, we don't like it when you throw an instrument across the room. That's dangerous, and you broke it.
yeah. Well, Tim, by the way, that's a great story, and that's a great one thing you'd have them do, and I did not expect that. But you, again, what you did with that clinician is you talked business with him or her. You told him it's costing us $300,000 a year to do this, and here are the numbers. And I'm guessing the way he handled the scopes changed. He might still have been the number one offender, but if he got 50% better, he cut the price in half. But that's what doesn't happen in healthcare very often.
Right.
And you see it all the way across the board.
Because they
So,
just follow, there's a lot of well-ran supply chain management departments, right? They're well-ran. But they're just going through the motions, So let me tell you what happened. So those scopes resulted in some significant savings on the back end. So I call corporate, say, hey, the people that are repairing our thing are charging us out huge amount of money. That's not our preferred vendor for repairs. It isn't. What is? He gave me the information. I called them, did all the tax forms, got us on account. All of a sudden, I reduced those repair costs by 70%.
So he stopped breaking them as much. You lowered the ones that do get broken by 70%. All of a sudden, yeah. All of a sudden,
$300,000 cost reduction for one hospital out of 120. So when he had him convert all those other hospitals, boom.